The holographic display flickered with images of dead ships floating in space. Rebecca Walsh sat in the back row of the war analysis chamber, watching dozens of alien military experts argue about something they could not understand. The battle footage showed human vessels fighting against the Dravik swarm, a species that had crushed 17 star systems in less than a year. Everyone had predicted humanity would fall within days. Instead, the humans had won. Impossible, High Commander Oren said, his reptilian scales shifting from green to dark red. He stood nearly 3 meters tall, and his voice carried the weight of someone who had never lost a battle. The mathematical models show human defeat in 72 hours. Yet they survived. They even pushed the Dravik back. Liara Sant, a delicate avian creature with silver feathers, raised one wing. Perhaps we made errors in our calculations? No errors, Oren snapped. I checked them myself. 3 times. Rebecca watched the footage replay for the 5th time that morning. She saw the moment when human Commander Williams had ordered his ships to break formation. The aliens in the chamber had gasped when they first saw it. Breaking formation meant exposing your weak points. It meant abandoning the protection of your fleet. Every military academy in the galaxy taught the same lesson. Never break formation, but Williams had done it anyway. His ships scattered like leaves in wind, and the Dravik swarm, which operated as one massive hive mind, had tried to track all the targets at once. The confusion lasted only 18 seconds. But those 18 seconds allowed the human strike teams to reach the Dravik command nodes and destroy them. Statistical anomaly, said a voice from the left side of the chamber. A tall being made of what looked like living crystal spoke in musical tones. The Dravik must have malfunctioned. The Dravik do not malfunction, Oren replied. They are a perfect collective intelligence. What we witnessed was something else. Something wrong. Rebecca smiled but said nothing. She had been invited to this meeting as a courtesy. The Galactic Council wanted human representation at their war analysis sessions, but they did not actually want human input. They wanted to study humanity like scientists examining a strange insect. The debate continued for another hour. Some species suggested the Dravik had been weakened by disease. Others proposed that human weapons had some unknown quality. A few even suggested the footage had been altered. Nobody wanted to accept the simple truth. Humans had outfought an enemy that should have destroyed them. When the session finally ended, Rebecca gathered her data tablet and headed toward the exit. Most of the alien commanders ignored her. They filed out in neat groups already discussing their next meeting, but one figure approached her. Rebecca Walsh? Liara Sant's voice was soft, almost musical. May I speak with you? Of course. The avian tilted her head in a way that reminded Rebecca of birds back on Earth. I watched you during the meeting. You did not seem surprised by the human victory. I wasn't. Why not? Rebecca looked at the smaller alien. Liara's eyes showed genuine curiosity, not the dismissive arrogance that Oren displayed. Because I know how humans fight. But the others said your tactics were chaotic, inefficient. They were. Liara's feathers ruffled with confusion. Then how did you win? Rebecca gestured to the now empty chamber. Can we talk somewhere more private? They found a small observation room overlooking the void of space. Liara perched on a chair designed for her species while Rebecca remained standing. Your people, Rebecca began, fight wars like you solve mathematical equations. You calculate the optimal strategy, deploy your forces with precision and expect victory because the numbers say you should win. That is logical. It is. But war is not logical. Liara's head tilted again. Explain. The Dravik swarm thinks as one mind, correct? Perfect coordination, perfect information sharing, perfect tactical unity. Yes, that is what makes them so dangerous. It is also what makes them predictable, Rebecca said. One mind means one set of assumptions. One way of thinking. When Commander Williams broke formation, the Dravik mind tried to process why. It searched for the tactical advantage we were seeking. It ran probability calculations. It wasted precious seconds looking for logic in an illogical act. But there was a tactical advantage, Liara said. You reached their command nodes. Yes, but that was not why Williams broke formation. Then why? Rebecca smiled. Because he knew they would expect him not to. The advantage came from the confusion, not from some brilliant tactical insight. He did something stupid. And it worked because the enemy could not believe anyone would do something so stupid. Liara was quiet for a long moment. Finally, she spoke again. Your species frightens the Council. I know. High Commander Oren believes you are either very lucky or very dangerous. He has not decided which. Both, Rebecca said. We are both. Will you teach us how humans think about war? Rebecca looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, human ships were patrolling the borders of space that the Council claimed to protect. Somewhere out there, young men and women were learning how to die for causes they barely understood. War was not glorious. It was not clean. It was horror and madness and sacrifice, and humans had been doing it for 10,000 years. If I teach you, Rebecca said slowly, you will not like what you learn. Your people will change. They will see things they cannot unsee. They will understand things they wish they did not. We need to learn, Liara said. The galaxy is not safe. There are threats beyond the Dravik. If we do not adapt, we will not survive. Rebecca turned to face the avian. Give me 3 days. I will prepare a presentation for the full council. What will you tell them? The truth, Rebecca said. I will tell them how humans win wars. But I warn you, Commander Oren will not be happy. Liara's feathers shifted to a lighter shade. He is never happy. Then this will make him even less so. As they parted ways, Rebecca felt the familiar weight settling on her shoulders. The weight of knowledge. The weight of history. The weight of being the one person in the room who truly understood what war meant. She had 3 days to explain 10,000 years of human conflict to species that had never known real violence. It would not be enough time. It never was, but she would try anyway because that was what humans did. They tried. They failed. They learned. They tried again, and somehow, through blood and sacrifice and terrible choices, they survived. She just hoped the council was ready for what she had to tell them. Somehow she doubted they were. 3 days passed like 3 hours. Rebecca stood in the center of an amphitheater that could hold 1,000 beings. Today it held exactly 847 representatives from across the galaxy. Every seat was filled. Word had spread that the human was going to explain her species' impossible victory. High Commander Oren sat in the front row, his massive frame taking up space meant for 3 smaller beings. His arms were crossed and his expression suggested he was already bored. Liara Sant perched nearby, her silver feathers catching the light from the holographic projectors behind Rebecca. Thank you for coming, Rebecca began. Her voice was calm, but her heart hammered in her chest. I want to start with a question. How many of you have studied human history? Not our technology or our space travel, our actual history. The wars we fought on our home planet before we reached the stars. Only a few appendages rose in the vast chamber, maybe 20 out of 800. That is the first problem, Rebecca said. You study wars as tactical exercises. You analyze fleet movements and weapon capabilities, but you do not study the people who fight. You do not study why they fight or how they think when death is coming for them. She activated the display behind her. Images of ancient Earth appeared. Soldiers in trenches covered in mud, cities reduced to rubble, armies marching across frozen wastelands. A collective sound of disgust rippled through the chamber. These were not the clean, distant battles the Council was used to seeing. These were brutal, personal, bloody. This is how humans learned warfare, Rebecca said. Not in simulations, not with AI predictions. We learned by dying. We learned by watching our friends die. We learned by making mistakes that cost millions of lives. Barbaric, someone muttered from the upper rows. Yes, Rebecca agreed. Absolutely barbaric. And effective. Because while you were using computers to fight your battles, we were fighting each other. Human against human. City against city. Nation against nation. For thousands of years, we refined the art of killing each other. High Commander Oren leaned forward. This is your defense? That your species is violent? No, Rebecca said. This is my explanation. You asked how we win. I am showing you. She changed the display to show the Dravik battle. Let me ask you something, Commander. What did you see when you watched this footage? Chaos, Oren replied immediately. Disorder. Violation of every tactical principle. Exactly. Now let me tell you what I saw. Rebecca paused the footage at the moment Commander Williams broke formation. I saw a man who understood that the enemy expected him to be logical. I saw a commander who knew that following the rules meant predictable defeat. So he broke the rules. But breaking formation is suicide, a voice called out. It should have been, Rebecca agreed. But here is what you do not understand. Human military doctrine is built on one simple idea. The enemy gets a vote. Confused murmurs filled the chamber. Rebecca continued. You plan your battles like chess matches. You calculate the optimal moves, but you assume your enemy will also play chess. What if they do not? What if they flip the board? What if they set the pieces on fire? Your perfect calculations become useless. She walked to the center of the amphitheater. The Drevik swarm is a collective intelligence. Perfect coordination. Perfect information sharing. But that means they think in one way. One pattern. Commander Williams did not try to outsmart them. He did not try to calculate a better strategy. He did something they could not predict because it made no logical sense. Liara spoke up. But how did he know it would work? He did not, Rebecca said simply. He gambled. He risked everything on the chance that confusion would buy him enough time. That is another thing humans understand that you do not. Sometimes winning requires accepting that you might lose. She played more footage. Moments where human soldiers ignored their AI advisors. Moments where entire squads sacrificed themselves to create opportunities for others. Moments that made the alien observers visibly uncomfortable. Your species fights wars at a distance, Rebecca said. Drones, automated defenses, computer-controlled fleets. You minimize casualties. You optimize efficiency. You treat war like a science experiment. And this is wrong? Oren demanded, not wrong, just different. Humans fight wars personally. We put ourselves in danger. We make decisions based not just on logic, but on intuition, emotion, and desperation. We adapt in real time because we know that no plan survives contact with the enemy. Rebecca showed images of human soldiers from different eras. Look at their faces. These people knew they might die. They went anyway, not because they were stupid. Not because they did not value life, but because they understood that sometimes survival requires sacrifice. The chamber was silent now. Even the species that had been dismissive earlier were paying attention. I know this is uncomfortable for you, Rebecca said. Your species evolved on peaceful worlds. You unified quickly. When you reached space, you built a society based on logic and cooperation. That is beautiful. That is something humans envy. She paused. But it also means you have never really faced death. Not as individuals. Not as a species. You fight wars with the understanding that you will probably survive. Humans fight wars knowing we might not. High Commander Oren stood. His scales had darkened to almost black. You speak as if your barbarism is something to be proud of. No, Rebecca said quietly. It is something to be honest about. You asked how humans win wars. This is how. We win because we understand war in a way you do not. We win because we have been doing this since we lived in caves. We win because when everything goes wrong, when all the plans fail, when logic offers no solutions, we can look at the chaos and find a way forward. She met Oren's gaze. You want to know the real difference between us, Commander? You study war. We remember it. Every human child learns about the wars we fought, the mistakes we made, the prices we paid. It is part of who we are. Oren's expression was unreadable. Finally, he spoke. You claim to understand war better than any species in this council. Prove it. How? Tell me how you would defeat the Saurian Dominion in battle. We have never lost a conflict. Our military doctrine is perfect. Show me how your chaos would overcome our order. The chamber erupted in shocked whispers. Liara's feathers went pale. Challenging the High Commander's military record was not done lightly. Rebecca considered for a moment. Then she smiled. Give me access to your military records. Your battle history, your tactical databases. Give me 2 days, and then I will show you exactly how humans would dismantle your perfect military doctrine, piece by piece. Oren's eyes narrowed. You are very confident for someone from such a young species. Confidence has nothing to do with it, Rebecca said. You asked for the truth. I am giving it to you. But I warn you, Commander, once you see how we think, you cannot unsee it. Once you understand how we win, it will change how you see warfare forever. I accept your challenge, Oren said. 2 days. Then you will present your plan to this council. If you fail to convince us, humanity will be removed from all military alliances. And if I succeed, Oren's scales rippled. Then we will have much to discuss. As the council session ended, Liara approached Rebecca. Do you know what you have done? The High Commander has never been challenged like this. I know. He will not forgive you if you embarrass him. Rebecca looked at the avian commander. I am not trying to embarrass him. I am trying to save lives. Because someday, your perfect tactics will meet an enemy that does not care about your rules. And when that day comes, you need to understand how to fight back. And you believe you can teach us this? I believe I have to try, Rebecca said. Because the galaxy is dangerous. And if you keep fighting wars like scientists running experiments, eventually you will run into something that treats war like we do. Like what? Rebecca's expression darkened. Like survival. Not strategy. Not honor. Just pure desperate survival. And when that day comes, I want you to be ready. The archives of the Galactic Council stretched for kilometers beneath the surface of the station. Rebecca walked through corridors lined with data cores that held centuries of military history. 2 human analysts followed behind her, their portable computers already running pattern recognition software. This is everything? Rebecca asked the archive keeper, a floating jellyfish-like being that communicated through bioluminescent pulses. The lights on its body flashed in confirmation. Every battle the Saurian Dominion had ever fought was stored here. Hundreds of conflicts spanning 3 centuries, not a single defeat among them. Let's get to work, Rebecca said. For 18 hours straight, they analyzed the data. Every Saurian victory followed patterns so precise they could set clocks by them. The reptilian species approached warfare like a mathematical proof. Step 1 always led to Step 2. Step 2 created conditions for Step 3. By Step 7, the enemy was defeated. It's beautiful, said David Park, one of the human analysts. His eyes were red from staring at screens. Their tactical doctrine is perfect. No wasted movement. No unnecessary casualties, just pure efficiency. Too perfect, Rebecca muttered. What do you mean? Rebecca pulled up 3 different battles on her display. Look at these. Different enemies. Different time periods. Different locations. But the Saurian response is almost identical in structure. They adjust for variables, sure, but the core approach never changes. The other analyst, Yuki Santos, zoomed in on a battle from 50 years ago. Because it works. Why change a winning strategy? Because, Rebecca said, a strategy that always wins becomes predictable. And predictable means vulnerable. She started making notes. The Saurian military relied on 3 key advantages. First, their computational systems could predict enemy movements with frightening accuracy. They fed in data about enemy weapons, ship types, commander psychology, and cultural factors. The computer would then calculate the most likely tactical choices the enemy would make. Second, they had superior technology. Stronger shields, more powerful weapons, faster ships. They could win through sheer force if predictions failed. Third, they maintained perfect communication and coordination through quantum-linked networks. Every ship, every soldier, every commander shared information instantly. They moved as one unified machine. These are incredible strengths, Yuki said. How do you counter this? Rebecca smiled. You don't counter the strengths. You turn them into weaknesses. Over the next 6 hours, she built a theoretical battle plan. Not a prediction, not a simulation, but a step-by-step guide for how human forces would approach a fight against the Saurian Dominion. Liara Sant arrived late in the evening with food. The avian had been checking on Rebecca's progress throughout the day. Have you found anything? Everything, Rebecca said. Sit down. You should see this before I present it tomorrow. Liara settled onto a chair and read through the plan on Rebecca's tablet. As she read, her silver feathers gradually shifted to a darker shade. When she finished, she looked up with something close to horror in her eyes. This is not warfare, Liara said. This is deception. This is attacking weaknesses. This is dishonorable. This is victory, Rebecca replied. Let me walk you through it. She pulled up the display. Step 1. Feed false information to their predictive systems. We would deliberately sacrifice smaller units in ways that follow traditional tactical doctrine. The Saurian computers would analyze these battles and build a psychological profile. They would conclude that we fight conventionally, but you do not. Exactly. By the time they realize their predictions are based on false data, we've already created the conditions for Step 2. Rebecca changed the display. Step 2. Force close quarters combat. The Saurian ships are massive, built for long-range engagement where their superior weapons can dominate. But in close quarters, size becomes a liability. Maneuverability matters more than firepower. Their captains have trained their entire lives for one type of warfare. We give them another type. Liara's feathers ruffled with agitation. You would deliberately put your own forces at risk? Yes, because the Saurian would never expect it. Their doctrine assumes rational self-preservation. We would sacrifice that assumption to gain tactical surprise. What is step 3? Rebecca's expression hardened. Communication jamming? The Saurian quantum network is their greatest strength. Take it away and their perfect coordination collapses. Suddenly, individual captains must make decisions without real-time data from command. They are not trained for that. Their entire military structure assumes the network is always available. Attacking communication infrastructure is a war crime under council law, Liara said quietly. I know, Rebecca said, but I am not designing a battle to follow council law. I am designing a battle to win. That is what High Commander Oren asked for. She continued through the remaining steps. Use weapons that did not require constant communication. Make tactical decisions that broke predictive models. Sacrifice smaller units to create larger strategic opportunities. Target the psychology of Saurian commanders, not just their ships. By the end of the presentation, Liara looked ill. If you present this tomorrow, the Council will call for humanity's expulsion. Maybe, Rebecca said. But Oren asked me to prove I understood warfare better than he does. This proves it. At what cost? Rebecca shut down the display and looked at her friend. Liara, I need you to understand something. Humans do not enjoy this. We do not take pride in finding ways to exploit trust or attack weaknesses or sacrifice our own people, but we do it because we have learned a terrible truth. What truth? That war is not about honor. It is not about fighting fair. It is about survival, and if the choice is between fighting honorably and losing or fighting dirty and winning, humans will choose survival every single time. Even if it costs your soul? Rebecca was quiet for a moment. Especially then. Because we believe that our souls are worth less than the lives we protect. That is the price humans pay for victory. We become monsters so others do not have to. The next morning, Rebecca stood before the full council again. High Commander Oren sat in the same seat, but this time he leaned forward with clear interest. The chamber was even more crowded than before. Everyone wanted to see if the human could actually challenge the greatest military mind in the galaxy. I have analyzed your military history, Rebecca began. The Saurian Dominion is impressive, undefeated, precise, powerful. Your doctrine is a masterpiece of military science. Oren's scales brightened slightly. He was pleased. But, Rebecca continued, it has one fatal flaw. You have never faced an enemy that fights wrong. The brightness faded from Oren's scales. Let me show you how humans would defeat you. For the next hour, Rebecca walked through her plan. She showed the simulations. She explained each step. She demonstrated how human forces would systematically dismantle every advantage the Saurian possessed. The chamber grew quieter with each passing minute. By the time she reached step 7, several council members had left. They could not watch anymore. Finally, Rebecca finished. That is how humans win wars, Commander. Not through superior technology or perfect tactics. We win by understanding that our enemies have rules they will not break. And we break those rules. High Commander Oren stood slowly. His scales had gone completely dark. Around his neck, the quantum communication device all Saurian officers wore pulsed with rapid light. He was receiving multiple messages from his fleet commanders. This is not strategy, he said, his voice shaking. This is betrayal of everything warfare should be. Yes, Rebecca agreed. It is also a complete victory. Your own tactical computers have confirmed it. I gave them access to the simulation. By their calculations, human forces would win in 6 days with 70% casualties on your side. You would sacrifice honor for victory? We would sacrifice anything for victory, Rebecca said. Because we have learned that dead, honorable people are still dead. And the living, no matter how they won, can at least try to build something better. Oren looked around the chamber. Many species were watching him, waiting for his response. Finally, he sat down heavily. You have proven your point, human. You understand war in ways I do not, in ways I hope I never do. Rebecca felt no triumph, only exhaustion. That is the burden my species carries, Commander. We understand things we wish we did not. The Council will need time to process this, Oren said quietly. But time was one thing they did not have. At that moment, alarms began blaring throughout the station. A new threat had appeared on the galactic rim. The Krell horde was coming, and they were far worse than anything the Council had faced before. Chaos ruled the council chambers. Representatives from dozens of species spoke over each other, their voices creating a wall of sound that made thinking impossible. The holographic displays showed the same terrible image on repeat, an entire border system reduced to debris. 3 billion lives gone in less than 4 hours. The Krell horde had arrived. Rebecca pushed through the crowd toward the command center. High Commander Oren was already there, surrounded by military advisors from a dozen different species. His scales shifted through color so rapidly it made Rebecca dizzy to look at him. Silence. Oren's voice cut through the noise. The chamber fell quiet. We need tactical assessments now. A crystalline being stepped forward. The Krell destroyed the system with overwhelming force. No strategy. No precision. Just raw violence. They lost 40% of their attack force but did not slow down. 40%? Liara's voice was horrified. They sacrificed nearly half their ships? They did not sacrifice, Oren said grimly. They simply did not care. The Krell do not fight wars the way we do. They see conflict as natural. Like breathing. Rebecca studied the battle footage. The Krell ships were crude compared to Council vessels. Less efficient engines. Weaker shields. Inferior weapons. By every tactical measure, they should have lost. But they had not. They had simply kept coming wave after wave until nothing remained to oppose them. They fight like humans, someone said. No. Rebecca's voice was sharp. They do not fight like humans. They fight like berserkers. There is a difference. Oren turned to her. Explain. Humans can be brutal, Commander. We can make terrible choices. But we are never mindless. Every sacrifice we make is calculated. Every risk we take is measured. The Krell do not calculate. They do not measure. They just destroy. Then how do we stop them? Rebecca looked at the footage again. You cannot outfight them. They will trade 10 ships for every one of yours, and they have the numbers to make that sustainable. You cannot outthink them because they do not think tactically. They just attack. So we are doomed? No, but you need to fight differently. You need to fight like they are a force of nature, not an enemy army. The doors to the command center burst open. A group of Saurian military officers entered, their expressions urgent. The lead officer approached Oren and spoke in their native language. Rebecca's translator struggled to keep up, but she caught the important parts. The Krell are moving toward the Winged Collective's home system. They will arrive in 6 days. Liara's feathers went completely white. My home. Oren pulled up star maps. We can assemble a defense fleet. 70 ships within 4 days, 100 within 6. It will not be enough, Rebecca said. The Krell destroyed a fortified system with 300 defending ships. Your 100 will delay them, nothing more. Then what do you suggest? Rebecca hesitated. She could see the path forward. Could see exactly what needed to be done, but saying it out loud would change everything. Speak human, Oren commanded. You need human tactical advisors. You need people who understand how to fight when conventional warfare fails. The chamber erupted again. Multiple species objected simultaneously. Humans were too violent, too unpredictable, too dangerous. Letting them guide military operations would be a mistake. High Commander Oren raised one massive hand and silence returned. He looked directly at Rebecca. You showed me how you would defeat my forces. You proved that human tactical thinking is effective if horrifying. But can you actually fight? Can you take your theories and turn them into victories? Yes. How can you be certain? Because humans have been fighting wars for 10,000 years, Rebecca said. We have fought on ice and in deserts. We have fought in space and underwater. We have fought enemies stronger than us, smarter than us, more numerous than us. And we survived. Not because we were better, but because we were willing to do what others would not. Oren was quiet for a long moment. His scales had settled into a dark green, which Rebecca had learned meant deep thought. Finally he spoke. The council needs to vote on this. But first I want to ask you something privately. He gestured to a side room. Rebecca followed him with Liara trailing behind. Once the door closed, Oren turned to face her. He was so tall that Rebecca had to crane her neck to meet his eyes. Tell me, human, he said slowly, how do your people live with yourselves? You speak of breaking rules and sacrificing lives and doing terrible things for victory. How do you return home after war and look your families in the eyes? It was the question Rebecca had been dreading. The one she asked herself every night when sleep would not come. She took a breath and decided to answer honestly. We do not, Commander. Not easily. Do you know what PTSD is? Post-traumatic stress disorder. It is a wound that does not heal. Millions of humans live with nightmares, with guilt, with memories of the people they killed or watched die. Then why fight at all? Because someone has to. Because if we do not, the people we love will suffer instead. Rebecca's voice grew harder. You asked how humans win wars? We win by being willing to break ourselves. Every human soldier knows they might come home as someone different, someone damaged. We win because we are willing to pay a price that you cannot even imagine. That is madness. Yes, it is also survival. Rebecca stepped closer, looking up at the massive reptilian. Your species fights wars with drones and computers because you cannot stomach what war actually is. You want clean victories. You want mathematical certainties. You want honor codes that let you sleep at night. We gave up that luxury thousands of years ago. So you become monsters? We become whatever is necessary. And then we live with the consequences. Oren sat down heavily on a bench designed for his species. For the first time since Rebecca had met him, he looked old, tired. Why? Why would anyone choose this burden? Because the alternative is worse. Because peace is not the absence of war. Peace is what you build after you have done the terrible things necessary to protect it. Liara spoke up, her voice barely above a whisper. Is it worth it? The cost you pay? Rebecca thought about the friends she had lost, the decisions that haunted her, the face she saw in the mirror that looked older than her years. Ask me after this war ends. If we survive, maybe I can answer that question. Oren stood. I will recommend to the council that we accept human assistance. But Rebecca Walsh, I need you to understand something. If we do this, if we let your people teach us how to fight like humans, we can never go back. We will see warfare differently. We will make choices we never thought we would make. You will change us. I know. And you are willing to carry that responsibility. Rebecca met his gaze. Commander, I carry the weight of every life lost because of decisions I have made. I carry the faces of enemies I have killed. I carry the knowledge that I am good at something terrible. One more burden will not make much difference. You are either the bravest person I have ever met or the most damaged. Both, Rebecca said. We are always both. Oren moved toward the door, then paused. One more thing. How do you sleep at night? Knowing what you have done? Rebecca's laugh was bitter. Sleep? Commander, humans who have seen real war do not sleep well. We just close our eyes and wait for morning. Some nights are better than others. Some nights the ghosts are quiet, but they never truly go away. That is a terrible way to live. Yes, but we do it anyway. Because someone has to stand between the darkness and everyone else. Because we love peace enough to destroy ourselves protecting it. Oren opened the door. The sounds of the panicking council flooded back in. The vote will happen within the hour. I suggest you prepare your team. As Rebecca walked back into the chaos, she felt Liara's wing touch her shoulder. Thank you, the avian said softly, for being willing to help us, for teaching us, even though it cost you so much. Do not thank me yet, Rebecca said. Wait until you see what we have to do to win. Wait until you understand the prices we will have to pay. Then decide if you want to thank me. Will it be that bad? Rebecca looked at the star map showing the Krell horde's advance. Worse, because this time it will not just be humans making those terrible choices. It will be all of you. And once you cross that line, you cannot uncross it. You will carry it forever. Then why do it? Because the alternative is extinction. And we believe that a soul burdened with guilt is better than no soul at all. The council voted. The humans were given tactical authority. The war was about to begin and nothing would ever be the same. The training facility on Liara's homeworld looked nothing like a military base. Soft architecture curved around ancient trees. Buildings blended with nature rather than dominating it. It was beautiful, peaceful, and completely wrong for what was about to happen here. Rebecca walked through a courtyard where 300 avian soldiers waited. They stood in perfect formation, their wings folded neatly, their expressions calm. Behind Rebecca came 5 human military instructors, including a grizzled veteran named Hector Price. He had fought in more conflicts than Rebecca could count, and his face showed every one of them. They look like they are going to a festival, Hector muttered, not preparing for war. That is the problem, Rebecca said quietly. She stepped onto the platform where Liara waited. The avian commander looked nervous. My soldiers are ready to learn. Are they? Rebecca asked. because what we are about to teach them will change them permanently. Some will quit. Some will have nightmares. All of them will question things they never questioned before. We have no choice. The Krell will be here in 4 days. Rebecca nodded and turned to address the gathered soldiers. I am Rebecca Walsh. These are human military instructors. We are here to teach you how to fight when logic fails, how to win when you should lose, how to survive when death seems certain. One of the avian soldiers raised a wing. We have studied warfare extensively. We know tactical theory. Forget it, Hector said, stepping forward. His voice was rough, like gravel grinding. Everything you learned is useless against the Krell. They do not care about your formations. They do not care about your optimal strategies. They care about killing you, and they are very good at it. The soldiers shifted uncomfortably. They were not used to such direct language. Let me show you something, Rebecca said. She activated a holographic display showing the Krell's attack on the border system. The footage was brutal. Krell ships rammed into defensive positions. They detonated their own vessels to create breaches. They sacrificed thousands to kill hundreds. This is not warfare, an avian soldier said. This is madness. This is your enemy, Rebecca replied. And if you fight them with traditional tactics, you will die. All of you. Your families. Your civilization. Everything you love will burn because you were too civilized to do what was necessary. The training began. Human instructors tried to teach alien soldiers concepts that went against everything they knew. Attack from your weakest point to confuse the enemy. Retreat when you should advance. Sacrifice small advantages for larger ones. Ignore the AI recommendations when intuition says otherwise. The avian soldiers struggled. They were too precise, too logical. When presented with a tactical problem, they calculated optimal solutions. When told those solutions were wrong, they became frustrated. You are thinking too much, Hector shouted at one group. War is not a math problem. It is a bar fight. It is messy and personal and stupid. You need to feel it, not calculate it. That makes no sense, one soldier replied. Exactly. War does not make sense. The moment you try to make it make sense, you have already lost. Days passed. The avian soldiers made slow progress. Some began to understand. Others quit the training entirely, unable to reconcile what they were learning with who they thought they were. On the third night, Liara found Rebecca sitting alone outside the facility. The human was staring at the stars, a bottle of something alcoholic beside her. You are drinking, Liara observed. Old habit. Helps quiet the noise in my head. What noise? Rebecca looked at her friend. The voices of every person who died because of my decisions. Every soldier I sent into danger. Every civilian caught in crossfire. They are always there, Liara, always talking. How do you bear it? Badly. But I keep going because stopping means admitting it was all for nothing. Liara settled beside her. My soldiers are changing. I can see it in their eyes. They are becoming harder, less certain. Some are having nightmares about the simulations we run. I know. I warned you this would happen. Is it worth it? Destroying who they are to survive? Rebecca took a drink. I do not know. Ask me after the war. Ask the soldiers who survive. They will give you a better answer than I can. They sat in silence for a while. Then Liara spoke again. What you showed me in the simulations today, where we let the Krell occupy the outer colonies to draw them into a trap, that would mean abandoning millions of civilians. Yes. How can you even suggest such a thing? Because the alternative is losing everything, Rebecca said. If we fight the Krell system by system, they will grind us down. They have more ships, more soldiers, more willingness to die. We cannot win a fair fight, so we have to win an unfair one. But those civilians will die whether we defend them or not. The Krell do not take prisoners. They do not occupy territory peacefully. Everyone in those systems is already dead. The only question is whether their deaths mean something. Liara's feathers darkened. This is the human way. Using deaths to create tactical advantages. This is the survival way. Humans did not invent it. We just got better at accepting it than most species. I hate this. I hate what we are becoming. Rebecca looked at her friend. Good. The moment you stop hating it is the moment you become what you are fighting against. Hold on to that hate, Liara. Let it remind you that what we are doing is terrible. That way, when the war ends, you will remember to build something better. The next morning, Rebecca ran another simulation. This time, the avian soldiers performed better. They made decisions that violated their training but achieved results. They sacrificed units to create opportunities. They ignored logical solutions in favor of unpredictable ones. Hector watched from beside Rebecca. They are learning, too slowly. The Krell will be here tomorrow. Then we work with what we have. That afternoon, the Joint Defense Fleet began arriving. Ships from 50 different species gathered in orbit around Liara's homeworld. Human vessels were a tiny minority, maybe 20 ships out of 500. But those 20 ships had been given command authority over tactical decisions. High Commander Oren's flagship docked at the station. He requested a meeting with Rebecca immediately. "I have reviewed your battle plan," Oren said. His scales were a dark, troubled blue. "It is monstrous. It will work. At what cost?" 3 systems. Maybe 4 million civilians who cannot be evacuated in time. Oren's scales went darker. "The Council will never approve this." "The Council does not need to approve it," Rebecca said. "You gave humans tactical authority. This is my tactical decision. You would sacrifice millions for strategic advantage? I would sacrifice millions to save billions. That is the choice, Commander. There is no third option. The Krell are coming. We can either fight them smart or fight them fair. Fair means we all die. How do you live with yourself?" "I already told you." "I do not really. I just keep moving forward because stopping means thinking about what I have done. And if I think too long, I will not be able to keep going." Oren sat down. He looked old. "I thought I understood war. I have fought for 3 centuries. I have won every battle. But this is something else. This is war without the illusion of honor," Rebecca said. "This is war stripped down to its core truth. Do whatever it takes to protect what matters. Your previous battles were against civilized opponents. The Krell are not civilized. They are a force of nature wearing a uniform. And to fight them, we must become like them? No, we must become worse, because they do not care if they die. But we need to make them care. We need to make victory so expensive that they stop trying to win." Alarms began blaring. The Krell had arrived early. Their fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel at the edge of the system. Sensors showed over 700 ships. "They outnumber us," Oren said. "Numbers do not matter if we control the battlefield," Rebecca replied. She activated the fleet-wide communication system. "All ships, this is Walsh. Execute Plan Broken Sky. I repeat, execute Plan Broken Sky." Liara rushed into the command center. "What have you done?" "Broken Sky is the plan where we abandon the outer colonies. The Krell are early. We have no choice. There are still people out there. Civilians who thought they had more time." "I know," Rebecca said quietly. "I know exactly what I am doing. And I will carry their faces with all the others. But if we do not execute this plan, everyone dies. At least this way some survive." Liara looked at her with something between horror and understanding. "You really are willing to sacrifice anything?" "Yes, because that is what winning costs. Welcome to war, Liara. Welcome to the choices that will haunt you forever." The defense fleet moved according to Rebecca's orders. They abandoned 3 systems. Let the Krell occupy them. Let them commit their forces to holding worthless territory while the real trap was being prepared. And Rebecca watched it all happen, adding more faces to the collection in her mind. More voices to the ones that kept her awake at night. But she did not stop. Could not stop. Because humans had learned one terrible truth over 10,000 years of war. Sometimes the only way to save what you love is to become what you hate. And Rebecca Walsh was very good at being what she hated. 14 days had passed since the Krell first attacked. 14 days of watching the trap slowly close. Rebecca stood in the command center, surrounded by holographic displays showing the positions of hundreds of ships. Dark circles marked the space under her eyes. She could not remember the last time she had slept for more than an hour. The Krell had taken the bait perfectly. They had occupied 3 systems, committing 60% of their forces to holding territory they thought they had conquered. Their ships clustered around planets and stations, consolidating their positions exactly as Rebecca had predicted they would. "They are in position," Hector reported from his station. The old veteran looked grim. "All our forces are ready. We can execute final phase on your command." Rebecca looked at the displays one more time. In those 3 systems, maybe 4 million civilians remained. Some had refused to evacuate. Others simply had no way to leave. The Krell had not killed them yet, using them as hostages and human shields. "Commander Walsh, Liara's voice was tight. There must be another way. Those people are already dead, Rebecca said flatly. The Krell will kill them the moment they no longer serve a purpose. At least this way their deaths will matter. High Commander Oren approached. His scales were the darkest Rebecca had ever seen them. I never thought I would give an order like this. Never thought I could. Then let me give it, Rebecca said. This is human tactical doctrine. This is what we do. You can blame me later. She activated the fleet-wide channel. Her voice was steady, cold, empty of emotion. All units, this is Walsh. Execute Starfall Protocol. I repeat, execute Starfall Protocol. May we be forgiven for what we are about to do. Across 3 systems, human ships that had been hiding in silent mode at the edges of star systems came to life. They were not warships. They were specialized vessels carrying weapons designed for one specific purpose: destabilizing stellar matter. The plan was simple and horrible. Target the stars, create cascading solar eruptions, turn entire systems into death traps. Firing solutions locked, a human weapons officer reported. Fire, Rebecca said. The weapons launched. They were not explosives. They were specifically designed devices that disrupted the natural fusion processes inside stars. The effects would not be immediate, but once started, they could not be stopped. 6 hours until the first star becomes unstable, Hector said. The Krell will have maybe 90 minutes to evacuate once they detect the changes. They will not evacuate, Rebecca said. They will think they can ride it out. By the time they realize they cannot, it will be too late. Liara's feathers had gone completely white. You are killing stars. You are destroying entire systems. Yes, how can you be so calm? Rebecca finally looked at the avian. I am not calm. I am empty. I have made so many terrible choices that one more barely registers. This is what I am, Liara. This is what humans become when we do what is necessary. The hours crawled by. The command center was silent except for status reports. Species from across the galaxy watched as human weapons did their terrible work. The first star began to show signs of instability at hour 5. Massive solar flares erupted from its surface. The Krell fleet in that system detected the anomalies but did not move. They were tough. They had survived worse. They would survive this. They were wrong. At hour 6, the star unleashed a coronal mass ejection unlike anything in its natural cycle. A wall of superheated plasma swept through the system at a significant fraction of light speed. It hit the Krell fleet like a hammer. Ships that were built to withstand weapons fire simply vaporized. Shields meant to stop projectiles were useless against stellar fire. In 18 minutes, 200 Krell vessels ceased to exist. The second and third stars followed the same pattern. By hour 12, the Krell horde had lost 70% of its military strength. The remaining Krell ships fled beyond the galactic rim. They did not return. They did not send messages. They simply disappeared into the darkness, broken and defeated. The Council had won. But the silence in the command center felt like a funeral. 3 systems, Liara said quietly, uninhabitable for centuries. 4 million civilians gone. Billions more will never be born in those places. The cost is always too high, Rebecca said. That is the secret of war. Victory never costs less than it is worth, reports began coming in. Celebrations across the galaxy. The Krell threat was ended. The Council had survived. Heroes would be made. Statues would be built. Rebecca felt none of it. She saw only the faces. The 4 million people who had died because she had given an order. Their faces joined all the others in her mind. The collection of ghosts that followed her everywhere. 3 days later, she stood before the full Galactic Council one last time. Representatives from 100 species waited to hear her speak. Some looked at her with gratitude, others with disgust, most with a mixture of both. You asked me how humans win wars, Rebecca began. Her voice was quiet, but it carried through the vast chamber. Now you know. We win by being willing to become monsters. We win by making choices that will haunt us until we die. We win by sacrificing pieces of our souls. She looked around the chamber. And the truly horrible part? We are good at it. We have 10,000 years of practice. We know exactly how to calculate acceptable losses, how to prioritize targets, how to make genocide look like strategic necessity. Liara stood. But you saved us. You protected billions of lives, at the cost of millions. Do not make me into a hero, Liara. I'm a person who killed 4 million civilians because it was strategically optimal. That is not heroism. That is horror with a uniform. High Commander Oren rose from his seat. You did what we could not. You made the impossible choice. Yes, and I will pay for it every day for the rest of my life. That is what you do not understand. Humans do not win wars because we think victory is worth the cost. We win because we are willing to pay costs that make victory meaningless. She pulled the insignia from her uniform and placed it on the podium. I am done. Find someone else to win your wars. I have paid enough. The chamber erupted in debate, but Rebecca did not stay to listen. She walked out, leaving behind the title of tactical advisor, leaving behind the authority, leaving behind everything except the weight she would carry forever. Oren caught up with her in the corridor. You are leaving? I have to. If I stay, you will ask me to make more choices like this. And I will do it, because I am good at it, because it works. But there is a limit to how much of yourself you can sacrifice before nothing remains. I am close to that limit. What will you do? Try to remember who I was before I became this. Try to sleep through a full night. Try to look in a mirror without seeing a monster. You are not a monster, Rebecca Walsh. You are a guardian who paid the price for protecting others. Those are the same thing, Commander. You just use different words to make yourself feel better about it. 6 months passed. Rebecca found a quiet colony world far from council space. She bought a small house with a garden. She planted vegetables and flowers. She tried to build something instead of destroying things. She still could not sleep well. The faces still visited every night. But the garden helped. Creating life felt like a small balance against all the death she had caused. Liara visited on a spring afternoon. The avian looked different, older, harder. The war had changed her too. The council sent me, Liara said. They want you to know something. I do not want medals. I do not want recognition. Not that. They have created a new doctrine. We call it the Walsh Principle. What is it? Before any major military decision, commanders must ask themselves, what price am I willing to pay? What piece of myself am I willing to lose? If they cannot answer, they do not have the right to give the order. Rebecca felt something catch in her throat. That is better than we ever did. You taught us that victory is not enough, that how we win matters, that the costs must be remembered and honored. I taught you how to be monsters. No, Liara said gently. You taught us how to survive. And more importantly, you taught us how to carry the weight of survival. Humans do not win because you are better at war. You win because you are better at living with what war requires. They sat in the garden together as the sun set. Council ships passed overhead in formations that blended alien precision with human unpredictability. The galaxy was safer. The price had been paid. Was it worth it? Liara asked finally. Rebecca looked at her garden, at the life growing there, at the peace she was trying to build. No, it is never worth it. But we did it anyway. And now we have to live with it. Together. Together, Rebecca agreed. Because that is the only way any of us survive what we have become. They watched the stars appear one by one. Up there, the galaxy continued. Wars would be fought. Choices would be made. Prices would be paid. But maybe, just maybe, the people making those choices would understand what they cost. Maybe they would remember that winning is not the same as being right. Maybe they would build something worth the sacrifices. Maybe. Rebecca returned to her garden the next morning. She planted new seeds and watered growing plants. She built life from dirt and water and patient care. It was slow work, peaceful work, the opposite of war, and every plant that grew felt like a small apology to the universe for what she had done. It would never be enough. But she would keep trying anyway. Because that was what humans did. They broke themselves to save others. They carried impossible weights. They made terrible choices and lived with the consequences. And when the war was over, they tried to remember how to be human again. Sometimes they succeeded, sometimes they did not. But they always tried. And in the end, maybe that was enough.